everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. It is Fed Day. Today is Fed Day. We have the Fed decision later on this afternoon, the Fed interest rate decision, the statement, and the press conference. That could provide quite a bit of volatility later on at 1 o'clock p.m. Central. We also have earnings, big-time earnings today out of Microsoft and Meta. Tomorrow, earnings out of Amazon and Apple. That could provide a ton of volatility as we head into the end of the week. So today, currently heading into the RTH Open, 31% of ADR, just 14 points of range. How big of a range day are we going to see today? The expectation here is for at least double average range, if not more. The market's been averaging about 45 points per day here. So we get double, we're looking at least 90-point session today, but for the most part, we're looking for something over 100 points. 100 to 120 points of range could be in play today, depending on how things play out. Is it going to be a buy-side type of high-range day, or is it a sell-side high-range day? That's going to be the big question here later on. How does the market respond to Fed, to earnings, to GDP? Which has just come out here recently, ADP and additional economic data points, a ton here coming out here today, and how is the market going to respond? As of right now, trending up, very bullish Pima trigger zone, melt up phase, new all-time highs, but we are now 3 standard deviations above value and very, very overvalued at the moment, but that doesn't mean we can't go further overvalued. Do we get a blow-off top and continue to extend this thing into the next highest market structure level? The next highest level, 6,600 here, and we have now made it to 64 from the edge of 62. If you can make it halfway up the next highest market structure, odds increase that you continue higher to 66, even if you pull back to retest the market structure below. So there's enough good grace here that we could pull back as deep as 6,200 up ahead and still be a buy into 6,600 by the end of the month here as we slide into August up ahead. All right, now looking at the NQ, similar price action out of the NQ right now. Narrow range, 35% of ADR heading into the RTH Open, above 3 standard deviations right now and trending above that level. So that's a price discovery phase above 3 standards. It continues to show quite a bit of strength overall. Since those strong lows at 16.5. We have every 2,000 points here is a big time market structure level. So 16.5, 18.5, 20,005, 22.5, and we're now holding above that level. 24.5 is the next level. 24.5 here. So for the most part, by being able to get up to 23.5, so again halfway up that market structure, that increases the potential for a continuation to 24.5. So if we pull back as deep as 22.5, that could provide an opportunity for bulls to defend and squeeze this thing up ahead. So is this uptrend going to remain intact? Do we see some tremendous impulse sell-off instead? We will see, and we will know more today. By the end of the day, we could have a high range day of 500 to 600 points. We've been averaging about 200 points per day. So if you double that, that's 400 points. If you get 500 to 600, you're looking at 250 to 300% of ADR. So if we get about 400 or 500 points of range, that's pretty significant. Which way is it going to be? Again, if we drop hard and get ourselves a new key range, that could also be very helpful as well. So we'll see what we get out of this market, but again, could be fairly quiet throughout much of the day, and then the end of the session could provide about 80% of the range for the day. Additionally, the next session, Thursday, likely can be even higher range day than Fed Wednesday, and especially with Amazon and Apple earnings tacked on the back end as well. All right, looking at crude oil. Crude getting a meaningful squeeze here, shaking off the early pullback, continuing higher in a checkmark continuation, and now holding at the highs in a super narrow range day. $1.34 of range right now, sitting right at resistance at 70, big time level. If it can get through 70, it starts to open up some upside towards 76, 78. You fail at 70, and we're back in the range here between 64 and 70. But this has been a pretty decent attempt here to push higher. Can it open up some upside up ahead? Looking at gold futures, this one's down 0.2% right now, but continuing to hold within the developing larger range. This range right here, that range right there packs a ton of energy. Look at the back end here. That's a 500-point back end. It's building energy over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 months. That means you got 500 points of energy that could come out over the next 4 months if expansion happens in April. So if expansion happens in April, we could be looking at a big time finish to the year. If it doesn't happen in April, we're still stuck in the range back and forth building that energy until this thing is ready to see expansion. Looking at the YM, currently the YM trending up, holding at these highs at the moment at 45K, big time market structure level there. If it can push through that level, obviously you start to open up some upside a bit here, but these are all-time highs. These are all-time highs. Do we get a day one rejection today? We're only trading 29% of ADR right now. Super narrow range, 114 points. Do we get a breakout here? Do we get a failed high and drop? If we get something like that, we're looking at some pullback. And that could lead to an impulse move in a new key range. So we will see what we get. But the expectation, again, at least double average range. If we've been averaging, 370, 380, 390, then we're looking at something closer to 750 to 800 points of range today. That could be in play by the end of the session. Now that we haven't seen range days that big here lately, but there's a ton of, again, Microsoft, Meta, Fed. There's a ton of late day data that could create much of that range if we do something of that magnitude. All right, looking at Bitcoin. Bitcoin up 0.2%. This one's getting to a point where it's super compressed as well. It had been using a lot of the range here to kind of trade back and forth, but the last several days have been super, super compressed right toward the middle. This range has easily 15 to 20,000 points of energy inside of it, and once we get expansion, we could get a pretty tremendous move. Given the trend, do we get a downside move and checkmark rally into August? How does that play out? Do we get just a straight breakout through the highs and rally? Do we break out and fail with a higher high failure? We're going to see how the market moves out of this range, and then we'll try to figure out where those 20,000 points are going to go. So again, if we get that first move down, that could be a buying opportunity for a 20,000 point rally up ahead in August. So watching to see how that plays out. Looking at ETH, this one's up 0.25% right now, still sitting up here at 3,800, just shy of 4,000. The expectation again was for one push into 4,000 to 4,200 to finish this big time move, but again, doesn't necessarily have to go get that before pulling back a bit. This thing could technically pull back towards, say, 2,800 and then make a continuation move higher if it's going to see expansion. But this thing very, very bullish right now. Can it get through 4,000 up ahead? All right, that's it for now. We'll see how this plays out here heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.